Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Wednesday, the 21st of August, 2024. I'm going to be your host tonight. A little extra minute getting on stream that time. Hope everybody's doing well. You can call in on these shows at 709-5894 4406. We're in Canada. So if you're outside of America or New Mexico, you might have a few issues, I don't know, but all lines are currently open. This is day 3 of covering an extinction level event in this series. This is recent news. We also got, I'm going to take you back to the time machine for a little tiny bit. One of those stories was last year they announced 10 billion snow crabs disappeared. They just disappeared. They don't know what it is. They don't know. They don't have any clue. They're not saying anything. And for people that love to talk, that's very strange, right? We'll go back even further to 2013. TEPCO done nothing for over 2 years to stop the highly radioactive Fukushima leak. The buildings are actually gone. And so you know this industry is just, it's insane because every nuclear event, they've called it a leak. Entire reactor cores ejected out of the building. Oh, I think they got a little leak going on over there, Friday. Let's go to a reporter on the site. TEPCO done nothing for over 2 years to stop the highly radioactive Fukushima massive emissions. The water is above a sievert per hour per liter. And amidst the work had not been done to this day because of difficulties. Yeah, because it's a death sentence to go close to these numbers. Doomsday-like radiation release if a fire in the pool at Unit 4. This is just a single reactor. There's the charmer right there. Doesn't look too bad, does it? I don't think they had a fire there yet. Now, the building was 190 feet tall. I know, I get all that. The reactor cores and fuel pools were at the top of the building. I get that. The government says there's no leaks, so I'm looking for a leak. I'm not looking for a destroyed building, right? It would be a global catastrophe. Gee, I wonder what they mean by that. Well, this is one of the models of the Neptunium-239 dispersal. Covers the entire planet. The models are based on 20 days. It's another model of the Xenon-133 at 1 million atoms per square meter. So this is your time of landfall per square meter. This was private emails reveal highest levels of governments worried about the health impacts. So if it affects the humans, it decimates the insects, the birds, the mammals, the animals, because we're at the top of the food chain. Nuclear industry tried to bury the truth, and University of California, Berkeley experts told the public there is no plume. That wasn't very nice, was it? There was another study of radioactive fallout of 20 million particles. This is even worse, many times. Of radioactive iodine-131 per liter fell on the U.S. This is stuff we've never heard of before. We've never, ever heard of anywhere on the planet where there was 20 million particles of anything, let alone the whole planet. And by the way, this material, this radioactive material, these isotopes, from the nuclear reactors is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. So despite the fact that it's you can take a very tiny amount, it's still very toxic to everything with replicating cells. And so the smaller species, insects, birds, mammals, and animals, now we're not talking the actual emissions, the pulse of energy every second, right this second. We're talking about just the toxicity. And remember, this is pulse and energy almost at the speed of light. It's like explosions going off in the cells. So this is a model of the plutonium-239 dispersal. So let me just do a recap on what we're talking about here. They'd done nothing. There was doomsday releases. The reactors categorically exploded. There was 1 million atoms per square meter of xenon-133. There was a massive plume of cubic meters of neptunium-239. There was 20 million particles of radioactive iodine-131 per liter, which meant there was 10 times more iodine-132, 30 times more iodine-133, 31 times more iodine-129. There was the particles we're talking about are 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. There was a massive plume. These models, by the way, are only based on 20 days. Plutonium-239, which is a bone seeker and mutates the stem cells. There was 220 million atoms per liter of iodine-129 in another study. This was the model of the xenon-133 or the krypton-85. I can't remember. It's like explosions going off in your cells and blowing holes in your DNA every second. So imagine everything being pummeled. This model is based on 19.5 days, 468 hours. And think about the immune system of everything, just besides humans. Humans are at the top of the food chain, but that don't mean you're escaping this stuff. So what they discovered was the immune system becomes dysfunctional, and then if you inject a typical flu virus into the mice, it'll kill the irradiated animal. In normal animals that are not irradiated, this is not the case. So the immune system is compromised for a long period of time after the radiation exposures. Well, the radiation never goes away. It ends up in the thyroid gland and mutates the hormones, which are distributed now throughout everywhere, the pituitary gland, everywhere else. And then also ends up into the bones and mutates the stem cells, which are the two most important facets of your function. It's the equivalent of oxygen and fuel for an automobile. Without it, the automobile has no function, right? So the immune systems of everybody becomes compromised, more susceptible to pathogens and viruses and illnesses manifest. And so what happens is when you have a event like 2020 and your immune system is completely compromised, you just have a strong flu, for instance. That can wipe out a huge chunk of the population, right? Radiation levels on the U.S. West Coast spiked to over 1 million times normal after Fukushima. This was a cesium-137 from the French government. This is another study of 1 million to 10 million atoms. And this was the model of the radioactive. Remember, the atoms are pulsing energy almost at the speed of light. Carbon doesn't do that, right? Carbon is benign. And without carbon, you can't have trees or insects or plants or animals or anything else. So this model is based on 16 days from the French government of 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. The newspaper ignores the scientific models and shows the Fukushima radiation impacting the West Coast, but only shows the tsunami wave height map and then discredits people that buys into it later. So there was the model they were showing from NOAA, but that was the tsunami. They were claiming it was radiation. When people said, oh my God, then they came out and mocked them. They said, hey, stupid, it's a tsunami map. But NOAA actually did have a radiation dispersal model, which is right there. They ignored that and promoted that and then called you an idiot when you believed it. And at the same time, the same ones were calling you an idiot were pretending they were on top of a reactor building that doesn't exist. So just let me recap all of this madness, because so 10 billion snow crabs vanish on the that's the whole industry. That was the end of the industry, like gone. They were like, hey, so we got lots of videos on Discovery Channel we can watch. TEPCO done nothing for over 2 years to stop the highly radioactive water because you can't. And suggesting it's a simple sievert per liter is insane because it's infinitely, nightmarishly worse than that could ever. And that is crazy on its own. Doomsday-like radiation if reactor 4 goes. Guess what? Reactor 4 goes. And so did reactor 3, so did reactor 2, so did reactor 1. And so did 32 reactor cores that were in 8 fuel pools. And just because they're in the fuel pools don't mean they're any different from that reactor core. You had 1 million atoms of xenon-133. You had a plume covered entire planet in 20 days, neptunium-239. These are academic studies. 20 million particles of iodine-131, which saturated thyroid glands of everything. Every bird, every bee, every insect, everything. Nothing escaped this. No whales. Nothing escapes it. And the material we're talking about is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. But you also had the boogeyman, plutonium-239 plume, based on 20 days. You had 220 million atoms per liter in another study of iodine-129. You had, I believe this was a Krypton 85 model, based on 19.5 days. You had 1 million times normal of cesium-137, which pulses energy 600 feet every second and does that for 300 years. You had the models of it. You had the ocean dispersals, which were way off because the airborne models, once they covered a planet, and then the numbers we're talking about in that plume are unbelievable numbers we're talking about. And the harm that they caused are catastrophic. And so this is just some of the studies, the academic studies showing, quantifying that it showed up. But you don't need none of it. You just need your own, to be honest, for 2 seconds and look at that reactor and realize that there was 9 reactor cores. Each reactor core was 100 Chernobyls because they're pure uranium, pure plutonium. And again, 10 billion snow crab vanished because this stuff is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. Let's keep going. So you had the fake model being promoted when the real one from the same organization, NOAA, was available. But all the media was promoting that one. And the question was, what sickness of the mind does people have to show the lie about the threat? You had all the media pretending around a building that doesn't exist. That's normal. That happens all the time, right? Why would he take a chance and do something like that? You had a German model of the radioactive dispersal in the oceans based on 6 years. And I usually play the video. I'm not doing it tonight. You had, we already showed you that one. You had 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools with 32 reactor cores. So it's a total of 36 reactor cores detonated and disappeared. The food appropriately was banned in 55 countries for a decade, but you should have banned it forever. And the evidence was there was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. Not everybody got health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. And so when the whole country has this kind of this wasn't the only adverse side effects. The list is unbelievable. And then people can still deny it. I don't understand. And then the so-called authority on radiation admitted there's no such thing as a safe level, and that the standards that they're using are based on natural stuff like bananas and potato chips and not based on anthropogenic man-made stuff, which is the biggest breach of academic and human history on its own. And that radiation health specialists, children a little over 11 atoms a kilogram will see heart problems. It was a Chernobyl study. And if you don't understand it, go watch the documentary Chernobyl Hearts about the children in the orphanages and the foundations that are trying to get them surgery to remediate some of their suffering. Top cancer and congenital malformations. Top cancer doctor, nuclear radiation, most carcinogenic thing that exists. And so we're going to get into the extinction level event coming up. I have to lay some foundations. Now, we've already done 2 shows, and I didn't lay this type of foundation. And that's not appropriate, right? And so we got to put this kind of information into the lexicon because you don't need much more than what I've just provided you to make up your own minds that, hey, wait now, this system is a significant threat to the survival of all species and humanity just by its emissions from the fuel pools and the reactor cores, let alone accidents. 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. Does it sound like fun to you? How about if you go to your doctor and you and your significant other and your children, the doctor says, well, you all got irreversible lesions to your vital organs. Here, take all these pills every day and good luck. If you think that you're immune to this, you're delusional. Bless your heart. Must be nice. Columbia medical professor, inhaling just one hot particle can cause a cancer. Doesn't that sound so yummy? Did you see all the models I showed you earlier? Does that? Imagine that if that can do that to a human, what's it going to do to a bird, a mammal, animal, insects, and everything else, right? We're not talking about full body x-rays on top of that. Yeah, we will later. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram of cesium-137. But to suggest that cesium-137 is the only one that's going to have that particular effect is insane on its own, right? 100 atoms a kilogram where cesium was nuclear waste, but now it's considered safe to eat. But 50 atoms a kilogram, permanent holes in the children's heart. But Japanese are shipping it worldwide, suggesting that it's safe, when it's simply, and suggesting there's only cesium-137. It's just bizarre. It's. I can't understand how the world can sit in silence. It's just, how can the world not be concerned? How does that actually work? I don't know, because I don't know. Oh yeah, the Calm Down Charlie video. Did anybody see it? Let's play it. I forgot about that. Good call, James. It's a short video. Charles, let's play that right now because I'll forget about it. I wanted to download it and I never done it because I watched the video and it was so ridiculous. I've been trying to analyze what I'm looking at. So let's just bear with me a second. I'll bring it up. It's just the crazy stuff. So what I think was, I'm going to play it for you, but what you're going to notice is, like, I've been playing a few songs that James put together, and that offended Charlie deeply. Calm Down Charlie. And so he made up his own song. But I don't understand the hello, Mr. Dana. He's got 3 views. Let's give him some views. I got no idea what it means. Hang on. I never got the audio on. Bear with me. Bear with me. Let me get myself out of the way. Let's get some check. The quality doesn't look very good. 360. Let's go for broke here. Here we go. Oh, I'm going to adjust that. I got no, like, he made up his own song. Sorry about that. Tokyo in the heart of Chicago. Oh, come on. Oh, hang on. I know what's going on. I got the virtual private network on. Let me get rid of that. Let's get rid of some clutter. My apologies. I forgot the music at the beginning. It goes nutty. It should be okay now. Let's go backwards a little bit for a bit of fun.
That is the Tokyo Bureau in the heart of Chicago.
So there's a Tokyo Bureau in the heart of Chicago.
Fukushima meltdown.
Fukushima meltdown. And he's doing like a reggae kind of beat, reggae.
No radiation downtown.
And I don't know what he's saying. He doesn't provide the words.
Festival of friendship. Mr. Dana was upset.
Mr. Dana was upset.
Hello, Mr. Dana.
So this is one of the videos the trolls put out. I threaten these pricks all the time. Not just that one time. They were trying to get me to give it up, right?
This is Yoshida Mashada, Tokyo Bureau, Chicago Division.
Mashada, piece of shit.
You filthy scammer. You watch the Olympic Games, Mr. Dana? You enjoy Olympic Games?
Got the Tokyo Bureau.
What is he talking about, I wonder? I don't watch the Olympic Games. And originally I thought he was talking about Chicago Olympic Games or something like that. I looked it up. It was 2016. I was actually on research expeditions for months and months at that time without coming home. I don't know.
In the heart of Chicago.
That was the strangest thing ever. Is that the strangest thing you ever saw? Hello, Mr. Dana. Well, you kick ass, man. You got 3 views. Now you probably got 4. And in the comments section, he got the troll. Hang on, just look at that. He's got Super Troll, Forbidden TV, Craig, can't remember his name. And then this is his other channel, Dana Durnford, Kevin Blanche Debunked. And that's where any dirt they can put together and attack me with is sitting there. I got James calling in there. I'm afraid to say hi. Hi, hello. Hello, Mr.
Oh my
Lucid.
God! What in the world was that?
I think he was jealous. He was jealous of the songs that you put out. I don't know.
I don't even know if you heard it, man. I mean, this is something like he put together, and then he's like adding something old about the Olympics in 2020. Like, why is he talking about that of all things?
Yeah, and that seemed to be his point, didn't it? That seemed like the only point I seen there. How do you like the Olympics, Mr. Dana? And I'm like, what? I guess stay tuned for part 2, is it? What's going on, right?
Well, this like kind of screams at some kind of weird intelligence psyop.
Yeah, there you go.
Which we know that's what he is. I mean,
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But it's just the creepiest thing. But I want you to know. I just wanted to call.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to call in real quick and just let you know that I've been working hard on just this this like what do you call it, a hobby? I mean, how many people are doing this now? That are leveraging the highest technology out there as a form of activism.
Oh, it's brilliant, actually, man. Trust me, it's brilliant.
But you have complete free. I just put a ton of tracks on my channel. You can go there, anything you want, Dan, just take it.
Okay, good stuff.
It's all for you.
Okay, beautiful, man. Awesome, love it. No, I love that. I love that stuff. It's fantastic, man. And
well, it's great because we can all do it. We can all kind of pitch in on that kind of stuff. We're just like a community of people that we're all working together on
Well, 100%. That's 100%.
world.
No, I mean that's
And
what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to get everybody to the point where they can extrapolate everything on their own, and then they're going to be just as tough mentally as the things as we need, right, to be able to handle the pushback, right, to commit themselves to pushing back against this nightmare. Did you see on his channel? He says, "You don't contact us, we contact you."
I mean, it's monster kind of mentality stuff, right? And it's like
It's like a 5-year-old monster, yeah. It's like a 5-year-old monster, though, isn't it?
I hope they know what they're up against, because we've got tools now, Dana.
Oh no, I know. That's a great point, actually.
You know, what are the masses going to pay attention to? They're going to pay attention to those that make the most sense. And if you could come across and have the best movie, the best song, the best stuff that at the grocery store
that stands out.
Fukushima song made by AI. I mean, can you believe that? I mean,
Oh yeah, no, that's that's perfect for the general population, because that's what they respond to, right? I'm generally way too technical for the average person, right?
Right.
You know, I'll go way down
Calm
to.
down, Charlie. We're going to have a last laugh. Calm down, Charlie. You're listening. We know. You know,
He's just throwing wood on the fire.
Yeah. Maybe you should just. You know, we're sensible people. Like, if you want to just call up Dana and say, you know what, Dana, you're right. I had a lot of soul searching, and I'm not going to work for the Chicago Division Nuclear Industry, Tokyo anymore. I want to help you.
He's going to come over to the winning side. Yeah, the winning team. We're the winning team. That's a fact.
We're on the higher ground. Calm down, Charlie. That's the way it works. So.
That was
just check whatever I got out there, and just take whatever you need. And
yeah, no, great. Keep her coming. I'll keep an eye out for it. Okay, buddy. Loves you. Take care, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Love you so much. All right, take care.
Yeah. Bye, boys. Good stuff. That was James Lucid, by the way, and James making those songs that made Calm Down Charlie so jealous that he made his own song, which was terrible. I guess he's going to keep posting videos. I hope he do. We get a little insight into him. I don't understand why he would invoke the Olympics, though. That somebody fed him something, I guess, and now he thinks he's got. Again, I don't know. I'm only speculating, right? This. Doesn't make any sense to anybody, let alone me. So let's keep going here. The madness never stops. Now we're almost to the stories. We only got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 more to get through. That's not bad. Come on, it's not bad. But if you've been around a lot, you know that's not bad. You know I do stuff like this all the time. Because I'm there trying to, I need some kind of introduction, and I can't ignore that, and I can't ignore this. And child's risk of cancer from radiation to up to 100 times higher than an adult. It's 1,000 times, and for insects and birds, mammals and animals, it's 1,000,000 times more vulnerable. And it's not just cancer; it's heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, congenital malformations. There's Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. There's some serious heartaches and heartbreaks. Send us people who don't mind dying. How come Calm Down Charlie, Yoshida Mashata, he used to be the towel boy at one of the bathhouses in Tokyo, and then he got a promotion for doing extra favors or something. Send us people who don't mind dying. Tokyo Vice Governor, did you ever hear send us when your power plant breaks down, your gas, oil, coal plant breaks down? Did you ever hear him put out a call? So there's people who don't mind dying. Does anybody know who those people actually are? I wonder. Tokyo vice governor suggested a Fukushima draft. Imagine your power plant breaks down. It's like, well, we got to go to war, folks. Our power plant broke down. You know, picking up 30 million one-ton bags and suggesting there's no radioactive fallout is one of the strangest. It's truly one of the strangest conversations I've ever had. And we've had it a lot, right? Where you provide all this information that I provide tonight, for instance. Show you the buildings. The buildings are gone. No, nothing got out, Dana. I read the story at CBS and CBC and ABC and NTV, and they said nothing got out. So you're a liar, Dana. But look at the picture, moron. This is only 2 of the reactors, by the way. At the top of each reactor was 8 reactor cores. They're gone too. La 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 la. Now I got Charlie's song on my head now. Reggae, calm down Charlie song. I think what we'll do is make up some. I think he got offended by the calm down Charlie songs because James is pretty good with words, man. And when you put a little music behind it, it's amazing. And then, because now we can put the voice behind it too. That freaked Charlie out. He had a nervous breakdown, and that video that we just played is proof, right? That he had a nervous breakdown. If that's not proof that Calm Down Charlie had a nervous breakdown, what the hell is? So the radiation was so high that the helicopters couldn't dump water on the spent fuel rods. They were already gone on March the 16th, by the way. High radiation forces withdrawal workers trying to restore power March the 18th. There was nobody there on March the 18th because that happened on March the 12th, and this happened on March the 14th or 15th and 14th. Once a reactor blows up, you don't step back on that site for a very, very long time. Official 311 notebook concerned half of Japan to be covered in nuclear waste. 60 and older should be prepared to die at the plant. Fire at a controlled reactor. That's not what I wanted. It was close, but not, no. It's only a matter of time before you have protesters everywhere. It's just a matter of time. We may not be able to live in Japan someday. You shouldn't be there now. So, like, we're going to get into the news cycle. We still got a few to get through, but we're almost there. If I just pick up the speed a little bit, stop frigging around so much. Japan Times column, but how do you just rush through a story like this, see? And that's another technique that I like to use, is try to let the story sit on the screen for a few seconds. Just because subconsciously, right, eventually, because I literally have a photographic memory when it comes to this stuff. I've been at it for so long. I can visually see it. And so if I got 100 headlines like this in a folder, I can scan down and they all look the same, but they don't to me because I can spot them, right? Unprecedented cataclysmic die-off of birds on the entire West Coast 2015. Doesn't that sound familiar? They never mentioned bird flu back then, I noticed. There was no domoic acid. What could it be, I wonder? Why could all these species be dying all over the place at the same time after Fukushima? But it can't be Fukushima. Only some weirdo named Calm Down Charlie Machado could be right. Everybody else is wrong. You imagine how freaked up you got to be him, though? And I say that because if you don't understand it, he's been stalking me for over a decade straight. For years and years and years, he called into every show. I never blocked him for probably 9 years. And finally, after 9 years, everybody was losing their minds. Data, block him. I was like, everybody should have a hater. But eventually I gave in and started blocking them because they were right and I was wrong, and I'm a bigger man to admit it. Yeah, it took me 9 years, but at least I admitted it. It doesn't sound very good, does it? professor says it's tragic. We've never seen anything like it. And ignore it at our own peril. Canary in the coal mine for us, scrambling to figure out what went on with the ecosystem. Well, the only thing everything had in common is post-Fukushima. All the die-offs, all the madness. Degenerate Gunnarsson, who made the racks for the fuel assemblies, which are the reactor cores, for the fuel pools, said move south of the equator. This is 2012, by the way. If Unit 4 fuel pool goes dry, but that's what it looked like in 2004. And Arnie Gunnarsson made the racks for 70 of those reactors, identical color, everything else, in the United States. And Arnie Gunnarsson's still out there, and people still go to Arnie and donate to Arnie Gunnarsson. Because he's very convincing, right? But he's a perpetual liar. He doesn't show you any of the documentation I show you. Top scientists suggest contaminated water was actively pumped out into the ocean from Fukushima plant. November 19, 2012. Mass die-off of sea creatures from California to Alaska, from New Mexico to Alaska, you mean. Animals are starving as the food chain, which is the entire northern hemisphere coastline. Animals starving as the food chain continues to collapse. And mass starvation events plague the West Coast. We have a simple name for it. It's called Extinction Level Event. Felt like I was doing nothing but counting dead animals. Yeah, tell me about it. Expert disease outbreak on the U.S. West Coast is the largest ever seen in any population of animals. Tens of millions of animals dead. Government needs to declare an emergency for an extinction occurs. Many scientists believe radiation from Fukushima. Many scientists believe the radiation from Fukushima is behind the mass extinction event. It's like a scene from a horror movie all along the West Coast. There's no food out there. And during these headlines, I was actually on the ocean doing research expeditions for months at a time. And then there's no food out there. Scientists can't figure out why there's mass starvation of seabirds. Species die-off is always unsettling. It's just not one, it's all species. Contamination from Fukushima is not almost irreversible, it's irreversible in the coastal sediment. Because it washes down from the mountains to the tidal zones, right? And which is the nursery. And once you wipe that out, we wiped that out. We've done 6 years of research on the tidal zones. Rapidly spreading disease in Hawaii coral. This is 2012, I believe, yeah. New strain of cyanobacteria blamed. Fish with lesions, turtle having problems. Big concern whether infectious to humans. Truly an unusual event. It's a new strain. Well, what happens is you compromise the immune system, more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign, right? Scientists reveal the details of unprecedented mass mortality on the West Coast that began in the summer of 2011, and just after Fukushima. Many millions are dead before the sea star wasting syndrome. And we read the papers, we interviewed professors and deans of universities on the West Coast, and they categorically lied about Fukushima on camera. And if they didn't take down my other site when we were out looking for spiders, you could see those videos yourself and the trips on the research expedition, which I'm going to have to repost now, ain't I? Because I still got a lot of that information. I can still post a lot of that. And I haven't done it, and I should probably do it this week, actually. Well, I got one set of videos there. There's probably 10 hours of just a sailboat where we posted 6 videos or something based on that. Yeah, I got to post that. We can stream it. That'd be fun to do, actually. Multiple species wiped out in days. Mortality rate of 99.99%. That's an extinction event. And what makes the ocean interesting, the tidal zones and everything else, is a glass of water would have 1 billion creatures in it. And so if you wipe out an area, if you plow in a tidal zone, it'll just reseed itself. And if it doesn't reseed itself, the reason was because the species from both sides and down deeper filled in the gap, and that didn't happen over the next 5 years. The Japan government is funding projects like Calm Down Charlie to monitor online info about Fukushima crisis, around-the-clock monitoring of blogs on nuclear power and Twitter accounts. To monitor blogs on nuclear power. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Did I like the Olympics? So what kind of message was that? From Yoshida Mashada, Tokyo Bureau of Chicago Division, or whatever the hell it is. Around-the-clock monitoring. So 12 million yen to censor Twitter being spent by the city. Not just Twitter, it's Facebook, YouTube, and everything else. And 12 million yen was at that time was 58,000 US dollars, I believe. Like Green Starlight, which is a significant amount of money just to fuck over a couple of people, isn't it? Like Green Starlight, highly contaminated marine snow covered the seafloor at least 2,000 kilometers out. So 2,000 kilometers offshore, it was at 5,000 meters, they were still getting 1,200 atoms a kilogram of cesium-134. Which means there's 100 times strontium-90 in the same sample. There was probably 10 times more cesium-137 in that same sample. It would have been saturated with plutonium and curium isotopes. Because that's how they do it. They can find certain isotopes easy, because the equipment is fairly cheap, right? But it's very expensive to find the other ones. So they can find one, then they can mathematically extrapolate the other isotopes through that technique. It is considered that the origins of the cesium-137 is not ocean currents, but radioactive fallout. It reached a depth of at least 5,000 meters, which is 3 miles deep, right? Or, I'm sorry, that's... we're talking about meters, so that's 15,000 feet. That's 3 miles. I got that wrong again. 5,000 meters, 3, 5, 15. I'm too brain dead even. Scientists, just to try to figure out how much of the continental shelf is going to be that deep, right? So yes, it's 3 miles deep. So this was May the 9th, 2021. Okay, we're finally here. How long did it take us tonight, I wonder? That wasn't bad, 44 minutes. Not good either, I'm sure, but it's not bad for me. The preamble. Scientists seek to understand an increase in the gray whale's deaths on the west coast, May the 9th, 2021. The recent sighting of an emaciated, they're all emaciated. There's 10,350 by 2019 that showed up emaciated, which meant there was 100,000 sank. Officials did not release the cause of death of an emaciated gray whale. They don't know how the emaciated gray whale died. Do I need to say anything else on this story? Have you ever heard anything so stupid in your life? Well, yeah, he was starved to death, but we don't know if he died of... He could have got hit by a ship, Dana. Too weak to get out of the way, right? That's true, you're right. Fisheries and Oceans Canada say 21 of the animals, which can grow up to 15 meters long and weigh 40 tons, have been found dead since then. 21 of the animals, this is Canada. And that those 21 whales are among the 450 gray whale strandings. The 450. Now we know there's 10,350 by 2019, right? What is called an unusual mortality event. I can't remember. Let me go backwards and see what happened here. In the past 2 years. So that's 1.6 a day. 1.5 dead whales every single day. Gray whales in particular. We're not talking about all the other whales. Which meant there was 9 sank every day that we didn't see. In BC, in April, one was seen off the waters of downtown Victoria looking, emaciated. They're all emaciated. You can see by his head, look at the indentation all around his head. It's what they call a peanut head. And when you see that, that's catastrophic emaciation you're looking at. So the loss went from 12 inches of blubber down to none. So there's no way for them to survive because they need the blubber to regulate their temperature. So they will die. And there is food available, and that's why they're emaciated, because they got so much radiation in their body. They have leukemia. Scientists believe that in addition to the recorded, so they can't uptake any more nutrition, right? That in addition to the recorded gray whale stranding, many more are dying in the ocean, not washing up to be found, which is, so for 450, there's around 4,500 sank. That's the consensus, is there's a 10-to-1 ratio. For every one that you find, there's 10 more you didn't find. And when you're seeing them emaciated, now we know there's 10,350 acknowledged post-Fukushima, gray whales. There was a mass mortality event for humpback whales, and this year they added another 7,000 whales to the tally of humpbacks. So there's been a humpback, many different types of mortality events for whales, different species. They simply sink at sea or drift further out to sea, or they may come to shore in unpopular regions and may not be counted. And the estimated recording strandings only represent up to about 13% of all deaths, which is a high number. That's the only story where I've seen them stretch it out to 13%. In January, it said the population of gray whales that migrate along the west coast has declined to about 24% since 2016, declined by about 24% from 27,000 to, so at that point they were acknowledging 7,000 animals. But the new numbers I showed you last night and the night before was 10,350. I'm not sure why maybe we'll go back and look at that after. Cesium remains dispersed throughout the water column from the surface to the ocean floor. That's actually an important story. Cesium remains saturated. So I'm going to put this there 5 or 6 times so I can find my way back. 1783. And because a lot of my paints got 10,000 or more into it. They've done nothing for years to stop the water. Doomsday like release if reactor 4 go be a global catastrophe. Guess what? Reactor 4 is gone. You had 1 million. So cesium remains dispersed throughout the water column from the surface to the ocean floor. So therefore, xenon-133 does too, and neptunium-239 does too, and iodine-131 did, and then because it's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison, nothing is safe. Then that meant that plutonium-239 dispersed from the surface to the ocean floor also, and that the iodine-129 is dispersed from the surface to the ocean floor for at least 150 million years. It also meant the krypton-85 is, and the cesium-137 is dispersed from the surface to the ocean floor. And this was the model based on 16 days. And they ignored it all, right? So when they say it's, I'm coming back down to that spot now. So when they say that cesium remains dispersed throughout the water column from the surface to the ocean floor, it's pretty dishonest, right? But that's what the scientists, that's their job apparently, to be dishonest. When they see it, they're going to say, well, the xenon, the krypton, the sulfur peroxide, hydrogen buckyballs, the iodine-129, the curium, the uranium, the plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium, and the list goes on, because, the reactors actually melted down, the fuel pools detonated and lost their inventories. It really happened. It actually happened. It happened, okay? Hang on. I promised you I'd come back, and we just touch on that subject. So, 40% drop in the Pacific population. That was 2022. And so the numbers went from 27,000 in 2016. The die-off was ongoing up to 2016, by the way. So they just disappeared, those numbers. But in 2016 to 2022 was 10,350. Now, they never died of ship strikes. The total number of ship strikes up to 2023 was 1,200. So then there was also, as you can see, 70 emaciated gray whales in the one go. Wrap your mind around that statement, right? But then they say a marine heat wave, because they just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks to it. Caused 7,000 extra humpback whale deaths to whales. So you had the emaciated 10,350 emaciated gray whales confirmed, and now you're talking about 7,000 extra humpback whales confirmed, emaciated. They had mortality events for right whales, gray whales, humpback whales, minke whales, beaked whales, killer whales, sperm whales, and many different species, including polar whales. So, polar whales, they always run by the beach then, have a nice day. I hear this all the time, right? But you have all these other species doing the exact same thing. They've never done that before. Nowhere throughout history do we see any of these connotations, right? A minke whale, unusual mortality events. Gray whales on mortality events. These are not mortality events. These are catastrophic extinction level events. Killer whales that eat up to 350 species being found emaciated. The Alaska seabirds, but in millions. Of different spectrums of the food chain, too, right? You got the common murres and turs and shearwaters and everything else. But the common murres will dive 600 feet all day, and they feed on anchovies and squid and sardines and krill and stuff like that. But then at the same time, you had the Cassini auklets and the storm petrels, which are microscopic eaters, showing up, but over a million Cassini auklets showed up. We have 6.6 million missing down here, 90 miles from me, because I'm right in the center of the biggest migratory run on the entire planet, and I can't find anything, which I forgot to bring in the card tonight, and so don't worry about it. We'll play it tomorrow night, because this show is going to go on for a couple of weeks, probably by the looks of it. You got emaciated bears, and they're showing it because, they're saying, the 5 million salmon didn't come back, only 600,000. Therefore, the bears are going to be emaciated. It doesn't work that way. 90% of their diet is berries and grubs and roots and stuff like that, and caribou and moose and elk and everything else. And so what it is, they eat 200,000 berries a day, and they got leukemia. That's what we're seeing. Emaciation is leukemia. Because there are still species out there for them to feed on, but not that much. 10 sperm whales die in a single stranding. This is stuff we've never heard of before. And because we follow this news for many years, we get the follow-up story, which was they were emaciated. And it's the same thing with the polar whales. In 2014, 2015, 2016, they would report on them as empty stomachs. They had starved to death. But after that, now let's get back down and pick up where we left off earlier. Because this is what I mean, the preambles sometimes, you got to take the long road for the preambles. Scientists seek to understand increases in gray whale deaths on the West Coast 2021. Some of the deaths were caused by boats. Now, I just showed you In 2023, the total number confirmed, not necessarily killed, but confirmed hit by boats was 1,200. So putting these connotations out there constantly is desperation, right? And then emaciated. I got hit by a boat, but, emaciated. Emaciated. In Haida in 2019, emaciated. 450 grey whale strandings that occurred in the past 2 years is an unusual mortality event. Well, that was a 2-year period, but from 2016 to 2022 it was actually 10,350 because we showed you that just now. And as soon as you see this, as soon as I see it, I know that's an emaciated whale. Fukushima radiation still circling the globe. Levels consistently rise in a fall on a 40-day cycle. Straining my eyes too much. And I got no idea what Calm Down Charlie's up to. He's not good, I can guarantee you that. I don't know if he's going to be... I think he's getting dangerous, personally. I'm starting to worry that he's going to hurt me. He's going to hurt me. He's going to hire a bunch of bunch of salmonella terracotta soldiers to come and murder me. More than a dozen whales are found dead in a mass stranding on an island. 2022. Sperm whales. Again. This was last year on the southern coast of Australia Island, between New Zealand and Australia, around the islands in the King Island. We covered this right when it happened in Bass Strait. At the same time, there was hundreds and hundreds of pilot whales washed up on the beach, emaciated with peanut heads. And since 2018, I guess, they've never reported on the contents of the stomachs of the pilot whales after that. Because we picked up on this a long time ago, right? These facets. I've been doing this for a very long time. The department says it's not unusual for sperm whales to be sighted in Tasmania. Well, it actually is. They're cold water species. They like deep diving for large squid. And they do go there. There's no doubt about it. But they turn around and leave again and head back, right? They stay there for a while, I guess. And the area in which they were discovered was within their normal range and habitat. USGS issues announcements about polar bears with oozing sores, hair loss in Alaska. The government is testing for radiation. 3 of the 4 captured yesterday were affected, and similar symptoms as recent mysterious seal deaths. Hong Kong wants a whale watching ban after finding a fast-moving vessel killed the mammal. So this is we're seeing this constantly showing up where they do stuff like this to convince the population, because if you try to have a population, oh, well, the whales are getting run down by the boat all the time, Dana, right? I mean, we can't even get out there and watch it because they stopped it. So that's what's going on, Dana. Uh-huh, yeah. Well, it's not actually, but I'm not going to try to talk to these people and convince them, because those people can't be convinced. And this is why we do these presentations for those who are intelligent. Will come here and they'll learn. This is an educational program. And I do field research, which, by the way, we're going to start doing again here. Right away, too. The weekend, now we finally got cool weather, not that I wanted it, but we got cool weather tonight. And so it's a bit quieter tonight. I haven't got the air conditioning running. And tomorrow's going to be a cool type of day, which is I don't want the warm weather to go away, but I don't mind getting a cool day for a change. But the weather is coming straight back. And it'll be back up to 90 degrees again the following day, Friday. So Friday, I'm going, the weekend I'll be out researching again, right? Hardcore. And what we're going to do is now hit the opposite side of the peninsula again. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. Mickey Lai from the Agricultural Fisheries Conservation Department says authorities should be given more power to protect marine life. Authorities should be given more powers to protect marine life. What do you mean more power? You didn't protect them for 13 years. You didn't acknowledge Fukushima for 13 years. For 13 years, you played stupid. You traitorous monkey. This is a fin whale. They're generally skinny-looking animals. That one's emaciated. Last July, Bride's whale was found dead in Hong Kong waters. A recent autopsy report has revealed that the whale was killed by a large, fast-moving vessel that fatally injured its back and spine. Well, it was too emaciated to get out of the way. Hong Kong authorities are now hoping to ban whale watching. When whales have been sighted, authorities should be given the power to ban whale watching and quickly create temporary areas where vessel activity is restricted. When whales come to Hong Kong, there are often issues or poor health conditions. These are fucking slimes, right? Excuse the language. I didn't mean to swear tonight. I was trying to be a good boy. Why didn't he say that in the first of it? Because the whales are in poor health condition, emaciated. We might have to ban whale watching because they can't get out of the way. No fucking way. They got to play a game all the way down to the last paragraph, right? Because that's what scumbags do. Up to 1 billion atoms a kilogram of iodine-131 was estimated in the seaweed near Fukushima reactors of just iodine-131. So in that same sample, it would have been 10 times more iodine-132, 30 times more iodine-133, 31 times more iodine-129, which never goes away. And all of these are going to saturate the thyroid glands of all the breeders. And particularly the female species are 4 times more vulnerable. Which is why you'll always hear me talking about we got to protect the female species, not just humans, but all the species on this planet from this idiot machine known as nuclear. These are idiots. Great educations, but zero common sense. That's why they got the jobs. Japan is hunting for fin whales again. This is 2024, August the 7th, so just last week. In 2019, Japan resumed commercial whaling on pygmy whales, bride whales, and sei whales, which they found 337 in Peru, was it? Or where was it they found them? I can't remember anymore. 2015, I think it was. Emaciated. Another species is now added. I mean, we've never seen die-offs like we're seeing. Now they added the fin whales. And they use a cartoon. Look at that. Such slime, eh? Japan's whaling company, Kyoto Seppaku, has killed its first fin whale this year, 2024. So far, Japan has hunted 3 species, dwarf whales, bride's whales, and, dwarf whales makes sense, obviously, Japanese, and side whales, sign whales. Now, the fin whale, the second largest living mammal, has become the target of the serial killing industry, known as nuclear. Japan's government claims that commercial whaling does not endanger the population of the marine mammals. Really? You got 10,350 emaciated gray whales because of Japan that died, which meant another 100,000 died. And then you have an extra 7,000 humpback whales that they acknowledge. You have mass die-off of all these particular species, by the way, they're talking about. Scientists, California fish were harmed by Fukushima radiation. The thyroids are sensitive to the iodine-131, so the fish are producing the radioactive hormones, and a few generations down the road, they stop reproducing. Hanging by a thread, BC southern resident orcas on a path to extinction. That was August the 5th of this year. I had a large group of workers come in with my sailboat, and they were hiding under the sailboat, and they were hanging, and because I was towing the Zodiacs behind me, that was going into Bella Bella, up in the middle of nowhere. I was going in looking for fuel and do some laundry and pick up some groceries. And I had this, it was blowing pretty strong, so I had the sails up, and I was just cruising in, and it was getting late in the evening, so I started the motor up. And to give me a little extra push because the tide was coming out, and tide up there is 19-foot tide exchange, right? And I remember I was exhausted, and all of a sudden I had this pack of whales around me, and I thought, I took videos and pictures and everything, and I showed them. I have to show them again at some point here. And then I figured out what they were up to. There was a gray whale up ahead, and then they all broke away from me, except for the young ones. And they broke a few minutes later, but the adults all went in and killed the gray whale and started consuming it. So by the time I sailed past it, it was a pretty gruesome sight there. They were just ripping it apart at the surface. And it was just Mother Nature, but it's still pretty rough to watch. So there was another whale. I was on the ocean at that time. I headed back at the very end of this, where a killer whale was pushing a dead baby whale around on its nose for 2 weeks, keep its head out of the water. And it got international attention, right? And so that was like in summertime or something. I was gone already about 4 months, and I was coming down, I believe it was the Icy Strait or Johnson Strait. And that's when I found out that was going on just about 100 miles ahead of me, right? But it was such a sad story. The southern residents' long potential lifespans may obscure their journey towards extinction. And a whale known as Granny was estimated to be 105 years old when she died, though that age has been disputed. And the population of 75 whales, a single birth or a death represents an annual population growth or decline of 1.4%. Government test finds plutonium in fish caught off of Japan's coast. Special report, plutonium levels suggest the fuel rods were shattered during the explosions. They use the word hydrogen, but the hydrogen is caused by the meltdown. The hydrogen is created from the zirconium cladding melting down, which is the cladding on the fuel rods for the reactor cores. And inside of that is the pellets of uranium plutonium. And so that creates a gas known as radioactive hydrogen. It's different than your normal hydrogen. But they like to conflate them to confuse you, and so you can't analyze things on your own. A rarely seen deep sea fish is found in California. And scientists want to know why. Well, I do too, damn it. Let me go back to this one for 1 second. I'm going to go out and grab that memory card so I can show some pictures and videos from a couple of days ago. Actually, because otherwise it doesn't get done if I don't keep at it. You know that, and I know that. So just give me one moment here. I'll find a video to keep you occupied for a minute. And there's so many scumbags, I don't know which one to play for you. I got to put this on up here so that when I come back I remember to turn the microphone back up. If I don't, just give me a call, I'll do it. The world is a different place than most people can imagine. Like, the way we get into wars is quite unique. Should I play Patrick Clausen, maybe? One more look here. You can't... The problem is there's so many scumbags, right? Oh, let's play the DCA video, which is banned in Canada because it cures cancer. It reduces all tumors by 70% in the first 3 weeks. You can get it in America, though. I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to run out and grab the memory card, and then I'll pop back here where I'm to right now, right? So bear with me. I might have to adjust the volume, so I'll do it on my end. Just bear with me.
Applications and is relatively cheap. But as CTV's medical specialist Avis Favreau explains, redevelop
Okay, I'm going to start that again.
applications and is relatively cheap. But as CTV's medical specialist Avis Favreau explains, redeveloping the drug may not fit into the business plans of the big pharmaceutical companies.
The tumor, the 3D
Dr. Evangelos Mikalakis has given cancer researchers a brand new lead with an old drug, a cheap, inexpensive powder that costs just pennies a dose.
You typically get this eureka kind of feeling, and it's actually the most exciting thing scientists can get.
The drug, called DCA in short, has been used for decades in humans with some rare inherited diseases. When he added it to the water of mice and rats given human cancers, the results surprised him.
And has this big tumor growing in his back. So you can see that even after 3 weeks there is a significant or 70%.
So that's an amazing thing he's showing you there.
It shrunk brain.
Right? Let me go back and do that again. So there's the tumor, it's a big tumor, and then they reduce it by 70%. I'll just play that for a few more seconds.
It to the water of mice and rats given human cancers. The results surprised him.
And has this big tumor growing in his back. So you can see that even after 3 weeks there is a significant or 70% decrease in tumor size.
It shrunk brain, breast, and lung tumors in the animals in a matter of weeks, and the drug had no side effects, confirmed by tests of DCA in humans for other diseases.
This kind of results, to my mind, are as good as it gets.
And it seems to work by reviving the energy-producing components of human cells, allowing the cells to work normally again, triggering cancerous cells to commit suicide. Scientists agree that DCA now needs to be tested quickly in human cancer patients.
This is exactly what we want, a drug that has activity, but has also minimal side effects for patients.
But there's a problem.
Problem is there's no money to be made. You can't get a patent on it. And what all DCA does is separates your blood, right? So cancer, your blood clumps together, so to speak. And they also noticed the same effect happened when they used structured water. There's two types of water. There's structured water, unstructured water. When you add chemical electrolysis and stuff like that to the water changes the structure. After nuclear bomb test, water for 1,800 mile circumference would change the structure. And so plants that have structured water, for instance, you'll get 30% more foliage, 30% more fruit. It'll be matured 30% sooner. And then when they done the experiments on humans, they took structured water, and structured water you can get it from deep wells or stuff that's ran over minerals through the mountains and stuff like that. Clean, check it for arsenic and stuff, but it's just natural water that didn't have electrical pumps or chemicals added to it. And you can buy machines to structure your water, by the way. I never did find out where they were. I did find it, but I can't remember where they were to. So let's talk about some of the research expeditions. Let's do the poll first, very quick. Is 4 nuclear meltdowns and 8 fuel pools with 32 reactor cores melting down an extinction level event? And unfortunately, yes, it is. What have we got down here? Right there. So Sunday, I didn't do a show. Sunday, I was out on research expeditions, and we've been covering little bits of it each night here. And this is a place called South Dildo. I know what you're thinking. You're like, no, Dana, there's no such thing as a place called Dildo. Well, yes, there is. South Dildo. And this was on the way back. Now, I passed this on the way. It was too much. I would have had to go off the highway to get there, but when I was headed out, we covered 550 kilometers, 10 and a half hours. And what we done was went to the bottom of all kinds of communities and looked for birds. So this was the sun was going down, but this is the bottom of the bay. And thank God cameras have changed over the years, because I shouldn't be allowed to own a camera. I'm so bad with it. But now the camera just does the work for you. You just put it on auto setting and just snap 30 pictures and see which one comes out. They all come out, it turns out to be. So I got a tendency to snap quite a few. So I'll still do 4, 5, 6 pictures. And then I'll go through the best and find the cleanest picture where I can zoom in like I'm doing now. And if there was a bird there, it stands out. And this is the biggest migratory route on the entire planet. So this is in South Dildo. There's also a dildo. Imagine growing up and going away to university when the professor or the teachers ask you where you grew up and went to school. You went to school at Dildo High School. It's like it's not a conversation your typical institution wants to have, but how do you avoid it when your star pupil do dildo? I don't know. I remember my sister used to send me, when I was out in BC, when I was young, right? Would send me up these letters and stuff like that. And you get on the boat and people would pick up and look at the postage stamp and blow up laughing because they didn't believe it. Like, well, no, it's real. And so again, here was another community. And these are spread out over big distances, 550 kilometers. It took me 10 and a half hours. And there was nothing. Now, this is also the same area where 2 years ago, there was 3 different strandings of the white-nosed dolphins. And there's around 30, 40 each time that died. They committed suicide. The ice pack was loose, and so they could have swam in or swam out. And there's no migratory birds, let alone other birds. Okay, so that was, we showed that one on Monday's show. So I think we're currently right here. This is, I'm going to have to put the headphones on. I'm not sure what the volume is going to be like. I'll jump it and adjust it in real time, hopefully. I'm about 10 kilometers from the Trans-Canada. Yeah, that's St. Mary's Bay. Or St. Mary's Bay, sorry. What town this is. I've never seen a sign yet. Yeah, St. Mary's. Let me do that one after. That's the opposite. So then, this one here must be Dildo. South Dildo. So this is South Dildo. That's right. I know what you're saying. So I got a picture of the sign a few seconds ago. And it's a little after 7. About a half an hour from home or something. So I don't see any birds. These are prime spots in the bottom of these bays. This is New Harbor or something. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, it's so disappointing. And so we're going to cover the other half of that peninsula on this weekend. If everything goes the way I'm hoping. It's probably going to take 2 days to cover the rest of it. And that'll give us another, well, counting that whole area, it'll probably be another 600 or 700 kilometers to cover. And so I'm going to try to cover that the weekend. The weather looks good. So there was an oarfish, another one that washed up recently. A rarely seen deep, this usually lives a few thousand feet down. It's found in, this was a 5 or 6 post-Fukushima that showed up around California, right? When I looked at the numbers, or the stories, I've seen quite a few stories over the last couple of years. A rarely seen deep sea fish resembling. I'll come back over to this feller. A serpent was found floating dead on the ocean surface. And it was in really good shape, apparently. So they don't. Scripps Institution of Oceanography, which don't have much respect for it. It's only the 20th time an oarfish is known to wash up in California since 1901. They have a mythical reputation as predictors of natural disasters or earthquakes. And they do seem to be a precursor, don't they? And normally live in a deep part of the oceans where light cannot reach it. Scientists from NOAA. Lead scientists surprised by Japan's data. Fukushima plant is still leaking radiation into the ocean. Well, let's look at some of the buildings, see what you think. Do you think they can leak? Or do you think it's all gone? I mean, some of it's gone. China syndrome reactor 1 and 2. But reactor 3 and 4, there's still some there, but 96% of it cooked off. But because there's so much, there was such a big inventory, there's still a lot left, right? Can we eat jet food, seafood from after Fukushima water discharge? So they're suggesting in 2023, and they even say there's since August. Let me give it back on this. Since August 2023, Japan has been releasing radioactive water. Well, it's actually since March the 16th. All the reactors had already detonated. So the hemorrhaging, the massive flow has been going ever since. And every time they have a typhoon or every time they have heavy rain or snow, it's unbelievable how much rain. The whole country is radioactive, by the way. All the pollen is radioactive on top of that. All the foliage and litter becomes radioactive. There's nowhere you can go in Japan, your Geiger counter is not going to scream. Just so, do you think this happened in 2023, or do you think it happened originally? Because if you think it happened in 2023, it's because you never came here before, right? At least 10 Atlantic white-sided dolphins died off Cape Friday after 125 dolphins were stranded during low tide. We kind of covered a bit of that last night. Is the biggest single mass stranding event in its response history in the past 25 years, since they've been around. We covered this story, death of a humpback whale in Nova Scotia, way up the river, way up this Shubenacadie River. Strange, 8 months later, plutonium test results are still pending. Researchers compare Fukushima radiation to potassium from a nuclear-connected university. But you can't conflate natural and anthropogenic. I mean, that's the minute a scientist does that, they should lose 30 degrees. You can't conflate or compare or put them in the same category as man-made and anthropogenic. You just can't do it. And the difference, let me explain the difference, actually. Because if I don't explain the difference, I'm not a very good person, in all honesty. That's my job, is to try to make sure that you are well armed. You have a well armed narrative to work with. So a lot of smart people, more smarter than me, have come out and articulated. Here we go. So we're talking about potassium and man-made. So let's talk about what a Curie is. A Curie is 37 billion atoms pulsing energy almost at the speed of light every second. And that's man-made stuff. Natural stuff doesn't have those attributes. Natural occurring radionuclides in food, potassium, like potassium 40, like they're conflating right there. There's 71 10 millionths of a Curie per gram. So cesium-137 is 88 times 37 billion atoms. Whereas potassium-40 is 71/10 of a curie per gram. It's 0.000071. About an atom or something, a functional atom. You can't make a dirty bomb out of potassium. You can't make a nuclear reactor fuel out of potassium. You can fill up a football field with potassium and sleep in it for the rest of your life, and you can't get a dose because your body regulates it. It's called homeostasis. And it regulates it like the thermostat regulates the temperature in your homes, or the cruise control regulates the speed of your vehicle. Baby flamingos saved from drought-decimated lake in Algeria. And what happened is the ground doesn't soak up water anymore. We killed the bacteria, we killed the fungus. And so the ground is perpetually dry and warm, which generates heat into the local environment. This is why we're seeing the heat waves the way we are. But it's also why we're seeing flash floods all over the world. It's because when you get rid of the bacteria and the fungus because of radiation fallout, then the ground can't suck up water anymore because it needs fungus and bacteria ecosystem to store it, right? So now the ground is so hot, when the rain hits it, it just runs. And we predicted this about 6-7 years ago, and now last number of years we're seeing it come to fruition, and it's terrifying. Around 300 pink flamingo chicks were rescued by volunteers in Algeria, which is where the French is a nuclear wasteland. The French destroyed Algeria and the French Polynesian islands. High temperatures and drought. Oh, yeah, buddy. Amazing looking at. I love animals. They're just wonderful. And they have very few friends left on the planet. Thousands of flamingos migrate each year to nest in Lake Tinsilk, about 450 kilometers, 280 miles southeast of the capital, Algeria. It's one of the largest wetlands in the country, with 20 square kilometers. Barely a month ago, there was water here. There's now a vast expanse of cracked earth littered with carcasses of dead birds. This is the 80 years of emissions and dumping and venting and the fuel pools boiling off all day long into the ecosystem. Because the fuel pools are still splitting atoms. So think of a reactor, 4 reactor cores in a fuel pool. Every day you got the same amount of atoms you normally have to boil water for 4 million homes and businesses being boiled off in 120,000 liters into the surrounding ecosystem, and then that circulates the whole planet eventually. But most of these disease factors are surrounded by farms. The disappearance of the lake was attributed to high temperatures and a years-long drought, and driven the adult flamingos away, and left behind their unhatched eggs and defenseless chicks and fledglings, and dozens which died from hunger, thirst, and poaching and wolf attacks. Nuclear brings us nothing but no future. TEPCO began coating the seafloor with cement mixtures. So there was fuel assemblies, reactor cores actually were ejected out of the reactors and landed on the coastline. And so they went down and cemented the ocean floor because they're splitting atoms, right? And so the fact they've done that is overwhelming evidence the ocean is destroyed. An unusual event: over 250 dead sea lion pups found on the California island, puzzling researchers. May 24, 2024, this year. Clearly these are not healthy sea lions, and because they're very plumb. A healthy one is very plumb, no wrinkles, for instance. And they got pelicans there and a seagull. Let's go back to 2012. Sickened Alaska seals concentrated where Fukushima radioactive plume made landfall after 3/11. One of the biggest plumes, when they come in, the big plumes, California, the anthropogenic pollution from Asia has always added to the pollution indexes for California. And that stays true for several months, where the pollution just hovers and lingers in the local environment, air mass, for several months and adds to the pollution index. So when Fukushima happened, that was a huge problem. And because Fukushima was a continuous plume that covered the entire planet like an invisible snowstorm. Okay, so let me go back to this one. Unusual events. So let me show you these pictures. These are emaciated animals. This is an aborted sea lion fetus, by the way, but it's still emaciated. But they're right on the ocean. So what's going on is there's no food in the ocean to maintain life. And so the vultures are there to do their job. Many pelicans have been in distress. Cormorants nesting is delayed. And sea lions, stillbirths, an influx of sea lions in the San Francisco Pier. Yeah, it was around 1,000 of them went in there, right? Radioactive plankton are so heavily contaminated, the food chain fears, continuously carried southward from Fukushima. So radioactive plankton are so heavily contaminated. So all the fish that are eating them, and then the bigger species that eat the fish, get exceptional catastrophic doses, right? Let me go down that road just a little bit further for you to make sure that so the plume models, they cover the whole planet right away. This model right here is the 16-day model, I think. And there was another study on 360 atoms of radioactive sulfur, the sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, per day may have been inhaled by Californians, which is going to be true for everything, say. Now, this model is based on iodine-131, 220 million, or cesium-137, at 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. So what's essentially you're looking at, because this model is only 16 days in after the tsunami, 10 days after the last reactor detonated, so it's not enough time for the model to play out, right? And they've done an updated model. I'm not going to bother looking for it right this second, even though it's right there at my fingertips somewhere. And so all water on the planet has phytoplankton. And phytoplankton is 50% of the oxygen of the planet produces, right? It's the biggest carbon sequester on the planet and the basis of the food chain for the entire ecosystem. And so we decimated that right away. And so all the species are going to be bathing into this, but also eating bioaccumulated. So you got krill are eating the phytoplankton, the zooplankton. You got herring and mackerel, and everything else is eating the krill, and herring is eating krill, and everything else is eating the herring, etc., etc. And it goes up the food chain all the way up. And so everything becomes ultimately significantly contaminated and devastated. So the species, because they reproduce so often, humans are reproducing every number of years maybe, but the species are producing prolifically. And so they disappear because they stop reproducing. It shows up over a few generations, and it'll show up in humans over many many places. We're already seeing it, I should say, right, with a decline. But we have, all kinds of other things thrown at us at this stage, right? They're never waste a crisis, so now that people's immune systems are compromised, they're coming after you with all kinds of other things to make you sick. They're taking advantage of it, and they intend to see it through. And our job is to fight back and quantify that this actually happened, do the research and document it. And as the world starts to wake up, and the world is waking up, nuclear is essentially destroyed. And if it wasn't for, like blank checkbooks being given to them, they couldn't exist. They'd be completely out of business already. Last year was 2 nuclear reactors. So let's do it so you got gas and oil and coal percentages of the energy sector worldwide, right? Then you got renewables and you got nuclear. Nuclear went backwards 2 large nuclear reactors, the 1,700 gigawatts, 1.7 gigawatts rather, and which is 2 large nuclear reactors, backwards came offline. So they didn't gain any extra nuclear last year, for instance. Renewables was equal to 507 gigawatts, which is equal to 575 large nuclear reactors coming online in just 12 months. And a typical reactor is 15 to 20 years, is what we're seeing for the last decade. So the nuclear industry can't compete with that. Worldwide, there's only about 365 gigawatts. But last year in renewables was 507 gigawatts. So why would you even consider nuclear? Well, you wouldn't, right? The nuclear industry has inconceivable amount of support from the industry and from the governments that they have captured, right? The regulatory agencies they captured. But the moral and ethical thing is we have to stop this industry. And the best way to do it is educate the population, the policymakers, the investors included. But also the population, because the population wakes up, they're done. And you have these pathetic attacks upon me. Like they say so much horrible stuff about me, and it's all meant just to drive you away, that it doesn't affect me anymore. I don't care. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't mean nothing to me. And I accepted this a long time ago that when I first came out with my name, it was, ever since that moment, it was an ongoing, relentless assault upon me. And that's what I expect from demons and scumbags, and that's the way it goes. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going away on top of that. So, Australia braces for catastrophic bird flu strain after mass wildlife deaths overseas. Catastrophic bird flu strain, Australia. Well, like any kind of flu that infects a population that has a compromised immune system is going to be catastrophic, because that's how radiation works. It compromises your immune system. It does that because they're bioaccumulating radiation in their body. Their body, each say every shrimp or every morsel of food they eat got some anthropogenic man-made radiation, and that starts gathering up in their body. We call it bioaccumulations. And each one of those is pulsing energy in every direction, almost at the speed of light. So it's exploding the DNA and chopping up your chromosomes and your cells. Your body has to repair that every single second. So it's not like it's just one cell or one DNA. That would be bad enough. But these are explosions, and cesium can explode 600 feet. So it can wreck populations close by, right? And certainly the fetuses that they're carrying or the eggs that they're carrying. And so what happens is your body attacks and tries to repair all the damage every second from these explosions. Say you got 100 or 10,000 of these little atoms in your body. They're all detonating, and your body has to repair every one of these damages and the sources. It tries to build a sarcophagus around it. And this is a slow process. Your body does that with white blood cells. For every white blood cell, you're displacing a red blood cell. The insects, the birds, the mammals, the animals, everything else, you are displacing a red blood cell. Your red blood cells are carrying oxygen, nutrition. So as your body accumulate more, you have less red blood cells and more white blood cells. So now you're very susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign. And for the elderly and the young, it's catastrophic and lethal. And for the species that don't have any ability to protect themselves or remediate anything, it's devastating, particularly to the reproduction. And it's not just killing birds. So when they say stuff like that, because they're trying to conflate now all the die-offs. I love penguins so much. They're such amazing. The Gen 2 penguin, they're just unbelievably gorgeous. And nuclear kills everything that's gorgeous. Mass outbreaks and mortalities worldwide, and not just in birds. Hundreds of species of wild birds were impacted globally. More than 650,000 seabirds have died, including pelicans, boobies, cormorants, and penguins. And these are compromised immune systems, and the normal flu that they would fight off is lethal. But they want you to think of it as a super flu, and then never waste a crisis, and who knows what they're willing to do. Because we've seen their legacy, and it's horrifying. We know it can move very quickly, said Scumbag. It got from the top of South America to the bottom of South America, which is about 6,000 kilometers, within 6 months. So that's a very, very fast transmission, something we've never seen before, and this stuff has been around forever. So there's something else going on, clearly. And they're conflating it. And clearly, all the sea lions we see are emaciated, which takes a very long time, same as the whales. Following outbreaks killing more than 30,000 sea lions in South America. And again, right, when we talk about these types of stories, let me just remind you. And that's the problem. These are wickedly hard shows to do. Because I'm not allowed to make a Freudian slip. I'm not allowed to make mistakes. And that's 100% awesome. So the 30,000 sea lions, there was 3,400 in Peru, I think it was. Bear with me, here it comes. That's why I love this equipment. My equipment can handle just about any format. There's very little I can import into my system that it can't handle it perfectly. Explosion of sea lion deaths in Peru, that's right, amid the deadly flu outbreak. This was 2023. Now, when I show you the picture, this is not bird flu. This took months. This is severe emaciation from starvation. This is a broken food chain. But what was really interesting was they had another picture with these guys in their paper suits. And they're on a beach with a sea lion. And that sea lion is emaciated. I didn't know a sea lion can be that tiny, right? I used to have an incredible fear of sea lions because I was a commercial diver, and the males like to rush you. They wouldn't physically hurt you, though. I've never been hurt by a sea lion. I don't know anybody. Well, that's a lie. I know one person, but he asked for it. He was asking for it. There was 200 sea lions on this big island rock. At the top of it was the male sea lion, right? And so everybody knows this guy's a moron. He starts diving right there. He was good picking, I must admit, but because sea lions don't eat we were picking sea urchins, purple and red sea urchins at the time. And he started diving there, and a male sea lion came down and grabbed his hood and tore it open. That's the only time I've ever seen it. And we're talking about tens of thousands of hours among us. We've never had an encounter that was physical. Now, I've been chased off the ocean floor more times than I want to acknowledge because I'm a coward. And what they do is they swim at you full speed, and they turn at the last second, and they throw a wake at you. And the wake will just tip you over. And if you're working at the sea urchins, that means you're going to roll through a whole bunch of spines, which means you're going to have a bunch of holes in your suit and in your body. It's very intimidating, by the way. And blowing, what the sea lions do, they go down to each other and they blow bubbles at each other. And then the one that runs out of oxygen goes to the top first is the loser. And so here's a diver, got a basically endless supply of oxygen, and you're blowing these bubbles. And I don't tell that story sitting around because somebody always asks you, who the fuck is Bubbles? Just to be a rude prick. Scares the French-Canadian in me coming out. That's a lie. There's no French-Canadian in me. That's just me, Dana being Dana. Since late 2022, scientists detected the virus in more than 100 species of wild birds like ducks and seagulls and geese and hawks and owls. Okay, so, and when this was going on, there was an interesting story that came out of the very middle of that. The very middle of all this, there was an interesting story came out. Let me find it. I'm not going to say that because some of you can't remember. Oh, I can. So, where is it to? Yeah. Okay, here we go. So, in the middle of all these die-offs of bird flu, was this one community, this one city. It wasn't a community, it was a city. And instead of sending their specimens to the same laboratory as everybody else, they done their own research. And at the same time, I was out there, and I was very vocal about all this. Starvation caused mass bird die-off. Gee, that's a little fast. Let me slow that down a bit. It was scary. Oh, I think that's the right speed. Try that again. Yeah. There we go again. One more time. Sorry. Oh, I suppose that's okay. That's the green screen. I got my name up there. Let me get that out of the way. Okay, so in the middle of this mass die-off of all these species, they said there was over 100 wild species, foxes and bears, and I had the headlines on every one of these, by the way. Bobcats and raccoons and bears and dolphins. Like the raccoons and the foxes, for instance, were babies that they had found, and then they tested them, and allegedly these are all at the same laboratory. They're doing it, but there was just one standout city. Starvation caused the mass bird deaths, not avian influenza. The large number of dead birds found on the island shores in June were confirmed to have died of starvation. In June, the state issued an announcement suspecting highly pathogenic avian influenza, and we covered all the die-offs during this 2-year period that we could find, to be killing birds, including seagulls, ducks, terns, cormorants, in the Boston coastal area, Massachusetts coastal areas. No highly pathogenic avian influenza was found, because they'd done their own test instead of sent it to the national laboratory where everybody else has sent it. Clearly, they confirmed the state labeled the dead birds they examined as emaciated. All were emaciated, and the consensus is they died of starvation. Radioactive sea spray has been shown to blow hundreds of kilometers inland. And so there were studies they had done on salt, because salt is liberated from the sea the same way as radioactive is liberated from the sea, through the spray, through evaporation, everything else. And what the previous studies of before Fukushima, they had studies were showing that insects 200 kilometers or 200 miles inland were acclimated to more salt in their diet, because for millions of years sea spray has found its way traveling, at least 200 miles inland. And so then the study came out, radioactive sea spray has been shown to blow hundreds of kilometers inland. So that's bad news for all kinds, because there's a majority of species do live on the coastal lines within a couple of 100 miles. Concerned over declining insect numbers. Now, I think we covered that last night, did we, or tonight? I can't remember. Last night. There is a decline over a longer time, and it's a real worry. Bug splat survey, we covered that too last night, I think. Decline in insect numbers. The annual Bugs Matter survey recorded an 89% decline in bug splatters on the windshields of cars. And I got a headline today, or just probably a half an hour before we went live, because even when I go out of the studio to take a break, I still continue to work. I don't know how to take a break. And I don't mind it at all. There's reason to love the unpopular crane fly. I actually love crane flies, but they spook me sometimes, because they will land on you or they'll come right close to you. But once I learned about them, then I don't care about them anymore, right? They're not going to hurt you. I'll catch all the insects that come in my home, if there is any. And so far this year, I think there was 2. And I catch them in a big bottle, and I have a piece of paper and slide a piece of paper, and then I'll bring them outdoors and let them go. I don't like killing them. I do sometimes. I got no choice. If I can't get rid of them, I'll kill them because I don't want them on my food. I don't want to be pooping all the time. Crane flies are important food for many species, let alone birds. So this particular bird, they follow the crane fly migration because they live such a short. They only live a few days. I can't remember. We can see what brings them here. The evidence flutters in the undergrowth and emergence of crane flies. The swallows skimming the pasture will take their shares. The spider webs will snare others. Now, we're not seeing spider webs in the forest for the last number of years here. We're seeing them on man-made structures. It's the same species. I'm not seeing no diversity. And you might see them on rocks, but you won't see them on bushes and trees and stuff like that where they should be. And because it used to be like 500,000 per acre. 460,000 or something per acre. And what's going on is that the trees are sucking up radiation. And so, like water, it'll go to the tips of the branches and where the spiders will tie onto, and it's pulsing energy at the speed of light every second. So it either drove them out of there and killed them, or sterilized them and killed them, and they disappeared because they stopped reproducing. Crane flies must be contenders for the title of the least loved insect, with their dangly, easily shed legs and tendency to enter houses through open windows. Which is true, right? They'll find their way in your house, and you'll see them because they throw such a big shadow at nighttime. They're harmless, but a dandy long legs fluttering around the bedroom is not conductive to a good night's sleep. Now, it's very annoying when you're sleeping and they land on you. You have this other instinct in your body to react very strongly to stuff like that. Well, these birds, I just love seeing all the different species of birds and insects. I never get tired of it, but I never get enough of it, I should say, because they're almost all gone. Groundwater is a likely source for continued flow of radiation into the ocean. A complete melt-through, so not surprising the discharges continue. Something has gone wrong for the insects, says the charity. The bees. There's been a decrease in sighting of butterflies, bees, and other invertebrate species. Well, butterflies and bees are pollinators. So they are the most important species. A decrease in pollinators, says Bug Life, an organization based in Peterborough, which has been noticed by residents and could be seen through a reduced number of elderflower berries. And Bug Life says it fears that the invertebrates face an extinction crisis, and without them, humans and other life forms could not survive. So without the bugs, other life forms cannot survive. So hate them or love them, you gotta have them. There's definitely a huge decline in the number of insects that people are seeing. We are seeing particularly a lack of pollinators. And if you look at things like elder flowers, you'll find there are very few berries where the flowers have been. So something has gone radically wrong. And it's not a local trend either. Colleagues in Scotland are reporting a lack of bugs. Midgets are a very important food source. People are noticing less swallow nests and far few house martin nests, because there's less food around for them. It is really important we have the bugs around to feed them. Indeed. Well said. Here, here. Yeah, here, chappy. Fewer bees and other pollinators, insects lead to shrinking crops. Shrinking. Everything is shrinking. Including the hair on my head. I got it all pulled out. Let me just delete everything we got, so tomorrow night I can pick up on the shrinking bug. And 10 billion crabs are missing, snow crabs. It's one of the most important crabs for restaurants and everything else. And I mean, they just disappeared. Nobody's seen it coming. Yeah, they stopped reproducing. They didn't disappear. They stopped reproducing, right? Alrighty, so that's it. We had just let me recap a little bit of this. 40% drop in the Pacific gray whale populations 2022. 10,350 gone. There was an extra 7,000 humpback whales they acknowledged starved to death. And you can blame it on climate change, or you can blame it on what really happened. Because radioactive fallout is climate change. This is France's model of 10 million atoms based on 31 days. This was the updated model. And so after 20 days, the whole planet is covered. This is French government, folks. This is a study on the 10 million atoms of cesium-137. This is bad as it gets. And so we're going to be here the whole time to bring this planet to the right frame of mind. Is 4 nuclear meltdowns and 8 fuel pools with 32 reactor cores melting down an extinction level event. Each fuel pool had 4 reactor cores or more because you don't have a repository anywhere on the planet. Somebody accidentally voted no. That happens. Probably sneezed or something, right? Oh, yes, my pretty flowers. Tabitha Goody donated $350 today. She couldn't donate last night. I changed the donate button last night, and I also uploaded put a new button on the front page. I'm going to show that to you right now. And I put up another 450 pictures. And so big shout out and hugs for Tabitha. Thank you so much, Tabitha. That is going to get us out on the research expeditions the weekend, big time. Wait, it's still loading. So you see the top of my page, because I have a lot going on. So this is page 3 of these pictures that I created with artificial intelligence. And you scroll right down to get, I don't know what's going on. Page 2 is right below all of that. And I don't know what's going on for some reason. I got, the page shouldn't do that to me, right? So I'll have to go back in tomorrow or something. And the research trips, if you open up that page, that's the 2015 one. This is still loading, so I'm going to stop that. I don't know what's going on. So if you open up the 2015 Pacific Ocean Marine Research at the nuclearproctologist.org, and it's really slow tonight, look at that. Shouldn't be doing that. Well, each one of these, you can open it up, and there's all kinds of pictures from the research expeditions. And the best dog on the bloody planet right there is Zoe. We'll open up that particular pane. And so when you open that up, don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about that. Just give it a second, let it load. It'll load. Everything is slow tonight, is it? What's going on? So if you click on that, the pictures will show up anyway. But not tonight. So I'm not going to worry about it. Don't worry about it. Hi, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Extra hugs out for Tabitha. Goody out of UK. Bless your heart. That's a huge deal. And calm down, Charlie's going to have a friggin' seizure. That you've done that. That was one of his big beef when he called in last night and lost his mind, eh? He lost his mind because somebody donated. And it's funny because James created these songs. Now he's got more up there, he said. So that's fantastic. And I'm going to play that other one, Calm Down Charlie, because that's the one that set him off. And he ended up creating his own little beat, the Tokyo Bureau, with the reggae of all things. I think it was Craig who created that site because it's such a shitty looking site. I'm pretty sure Calm Down Charlie got a bit more class than that. But looks like they're stalking me pretty heavy. And so I got to be careful on these research expeditions because it's a very dangerous industry. It's known to kill its opponents for many, many years. And this is, I'm going to play the song that I think set Calm Down Charlie off and drove him nuts for a closing song. This was a song, and it's AI, but he wrote the words, right? And so put the music behind it. So it's all about the words, and the voice is great. I got no issues with it. I think it's fantastic because if I'm humming it in the middle of the day, it's a good song. That's the bottom line. See everybody tomorrow night. We do this again.
In the Tokyo Bureau, swirling smoking neon beams.
See everybody tomorrow night. Have a great night, everybody.
Fueled by heated dreams.
We'll get there.
Calm down, Charlie calls in. Voice smooth as silk.
He was crazy last night.
Dana, you're dreaming. Don't cry over spilt milk.
Night,
On Dana Durnford show, the chatter's turning wild, but Charlie shoots it down with that cool cat style. Unit 3's no killer, no harm to see life. He chuckles in the static, cuts through the strife. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show. With a snap and a grin, Charlie's voice so clear scatters the dread, dispels all the fear. Mucks didn't hurt, he croons with a sigh. Science is for thinkers, not a whim or lie. Though Dana and the crowd may shout and roar, Charlie's unfazed, he's heard it all before. His swinging rationale, like a soothing song, says hold on to logic, we gotta stay strong. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show.